Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another exciting episode of Let's Talk Comics. In fact, today's episode is pretty special, not only because it's our first bonus episode, but because we're doing something very, very different. Today, I have two guests for you. The first guest is someone who has been on the show before. You know him, you love him, he's the best at what he does. It's Mr. Jason Aaron. Today sees the release of Bug Wars #1. And during the course of the conversation I had with Jason, we got into a conversation about research and what he did as far as learning about bugs, figuring out which bugs to include in his story, and it went to some pretty interesting places. And so Jason and I got to talking, and I got to thinking, why not see if it passes the sniff test? And we know it does. But let's get it that little extra seal of approval, if you will, on just how special this book is going to be. Which leads me to my second guest. Dr. Adrian Smith is an entomologist specializing in insect behavior and natural history. He leads the Evolutionary Biology and Behavior Research Lab at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences and holds a position in the Department of Biological Sciences at North Carolina State University. When it comes to bugs, this is the guy. Dr. Smith knows what makes bugs tick. Dr. Smith knows what makes them creepy, what makes them adorable. And if you have a question about bugs, specifically ants, you go to him. He has a YouTube channel that has 250,000 subscribers. He has amassed a following on Instagram. To him, this is a way of life. The bonus? He happens to be a really big Jason Aaron fan. And so to put Dr. Smith and Jason together in one room, or recording thing, together, I needed to make it happen. And so we did. And this chat, I think, is one that I believe you are going to really enjoy, just to hear an outside perspective, someone who understands the comic book medium, but also has a totally other, very successful professional life, talking to someone who is one of the best creators in the business. You're done hearing me yap. If you're ready, I'm ready. Let's talk comics. Adrian, you've had a chance to read the book.
Right.
What were some of your initial reactions to the bugs of it all?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Like, the bugs. I appreciate that one of the main classes of bugs is ants in the first one. I mean, for sure, we have ants versus beetles in the first one, and it's cool because it shows like the range of what insects really are. I mean, they are brutal in a sense, and also they're cooperative and sort of on the other spectrum of brutality too. And it's in there in book 1 for sure, which I really appreciated.
Love that. Jason, I know when you and I talked a bit, obviously you talked about the research that you had done, and I had actually just spoke to Mahmoud for an episode that's going to go live in just a little bit about some of the research that he had done as far as like scale and things of that nature. What were some of the more fascinating things? I know you talked about some of the scariness of some of the beetles and things like that, but I have to imagine in some of the research that you've done on for the bugs. Had to have surprised you in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first research I did was 40 years ago as a kid, rolling around in my backyard and lifting up rocks and seeing what was underneath. And so much of the evolution of Bug Wars goes back to that yard. I mean, it's literally the yard that from the book, right? It's the exact same yard from my childhood. But yeah, the certainly my collection of bug-related reference books has grown substantially over the last couple of years, and I've spent a lot of time. I've got the big book of beetles, which is one of my favorites because every page gives you an idea of like life size, how big some of the beetles are. So from such a range of beetles, from very, very tiny to ones that are, bigger than your hand. And we see a lot of those over the course of the book. The one who kind of becomes a character is Pack, who's a European rhinoceros beetle, who's kind of Slade's best friend in the book and sort of his most trusted guardian. And Pack will have a big arc over the course of the story. But within that, the first issue, you see a lot of ants and a lot of beetles. Second issue, we go to Swarm City, which is kind of the main hive of all the beetles in the yard. It's sort of like Moss Isley for bugs. It's a rather rough and tumble place, and you see all different kinds of beetles because even though this is a yard in the backwoods of Alabama, this yard contains insects that are literally from all over the world.
Adrian, as far as insects and bugs are concerned, in the way that they group and colonize and kind of exist in their own little bits, what are would you say maybe are some of the more fascinating facts on just how they organize in a sense, and if they were to prepare against some predators and things like that, what are some of the things that they do kind of naturally to
well, like I mean, I'm always astounded by insects. Like I only know a little bit, and I feel like I learn more stuff every day. Like there's so much to explore and learn about them, even in my own backyard, really. But recently, one of the things, I was making a video about wasps and reading more about them, and like over 95% of wasps are not social, not things that live in a hive. They're things that that make their living as parasites and emerge from the corpses of other insects that they parasitize. And that's most wasps on Earth, which is like mind-blowing. But then like that's on one side. And then on the other side of the wasps that we maybe imagine more of the cooperative ones that live in colonies, that do things together, that, cooperatively care for young and go out and forage and build structures to live in even. So to me, it's like that's just one type of hymenopteran, and you find that whole spectrum of that. And things like ants, like some of them are completely parasitic on other species of ants, and some of them are colonies of 5 million individuals with very specialized individuals within their colony. And it's that level of diversity is like, I think, one of the extraordinary things for me just as a scientist, like looking at bugs. And it's always fun when people pick up on that and incorporated that into their art, into their creative work too.
That's awesome. I think one of the you mentioned ants, and it's one of the things that I think is always is the fact that people latch on to the most, or the one that at least the one that I remember as a kid, and I've heard my kid repeat it, and I don't know where she got it from, but the thing is that ants have this extraordinary capability to carry things that are seemingly more way more than they weigh. What about
Oh, wait. I have something for that. Okay.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Okay. I've had a stack of comic. I used to anytime I'd see a reference of an insect in a comic book, I was like, sure, I gotta have that. I'm gonna keep this, and I'm gonna make a piece of content sometime that has all of my favorite references to insects in comic books.
Perfect.
And so because you said that, hold on, let me get part of my stack here. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay. Get ready. This is not even, I didn't even stage this. This has been on my desk for years. So here's part of the stack. But, all right. So we all know what this one is, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Action number one. Okay.
Action number one.
Do you know what I'm going to show here? Either one of you?
No, I don't think I remember. I don't remember the bug.
Page one of Superman. Page one of superheroes. Bottom right of the page. The scientific explanation for Superman's amazing things.
That's it. There's
the one fact. The first fact is the ant thing, is that ants can lift more than their body weight, and the second one is, of course, grasshoppers jumping.
See?
And
That's it. That's where we've all learned it from.
dude, maybe I don't even know. Maybe like
bugs have been there from the beginning in comics.
Exactly. Like I think there's like something deeper there. Like I think there's like insects are so in our world but beyond our world at the same time. Like what Jason said, like they're in your backyard, and when you take a close look at them, you're like, what are they doing? They can jump, 500 times their body length. They can lift X number of amount of times of their body strength. Like that's extraordinary. And I think, from the 30s, right? Like the first instance of superheroes as a thing, like they are the kind of ground truth to the extraordinary. And so I think there's something there, right? I think they're so alien, but they're so not alien because we interact with them on some sort of sense every day, that like they've been in our extraordinary tales for forever, really. So yeah, I think there's something deeper there. I don't know. That's one of my theories as an entomologist and also a comic book kind of person.
I mean, I think what you're saying is kind of one of the things that's at the heart of Bug Wars, is that sort of sense of this is the world outside your doorstep. It's a world that's right out there in your backyard. But when you shrink down and see it from a different perspective, you realize how incredible, it really is. It's easier to take it for granted when you're way up high, but when you're right down in it, it's a different thing. And sort of like some of the videos you do on your Instagram, where if you're able to see like how fast a tiger beetle really is, right? Or you see how strong a leafcutter ant is, like from their perspective, that it's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, I've studied insect behavior for a long time, and one of the tools you need really to do that is a high-speed camera, so you can see what these insects are doing because it happens so fast. And I think that's one of the places where like fear or just fear or misunderstanding of insects comes from, is because they do things that are so beyond our scale of perception. Like they're so small, and at the same time they're so fast. Like if a moth flies by you, or a cockroach jumps out, like it's a blur to the way we perceive the world. And so for me as a scientist to see these things, like I have to film them at like 6,000, 10,000, 40,000 frames per second. And then once you see the footage, like it becomes understandable because you're seeing them at the time scale at which they operate. And it becomes then that's a place where you can kind of like intuitively understand them and like see them at their own pace, which matches up at our pace. So I feel like that change of scale is like where you can go into that world and sort of see that.
Well, you have the high-speed camera. I just need an incredible art team like Mahmoud and Matt to bring it all to life.
Yeah. What are you sending your art team when you... I mean, it must be part of the writing process, is like, figuring out like what kind of insect detail can I include in this, and like how are you getting those references, I guess?
Well, some of that's me, some of that's Mahmoud. Mahmoud's the one who's got to sit and actually draw, a million ants and a million beetles. So I suggest specific bugs when it's I feel like it's important, or just like here's an interesting one that I've discovered. But in the end, it's up to him because he's the one who's got to draw it all. So he has amassed his own massive collection of bug reference books as well. Yeah,
I feel like I might have seen an interview with him where he said he was initially afraid of insects.
Yes, that is true. This book has been like therapy for him to face his fears.
Yeah.
He didn't tell me that when we first started talking about it.
Oh, really? How did the concept start for you? Did it start with insects?
Yeah, I mean, it started with just those kind of stories of oh no, I'm shrunk. Like the comic book couples counseling podcast put it, like that whole genre, oh no, I'm shrunk. And to me, sort of the Atom was a big comic for me in the 80s, where the Atom gets stuck at 6 inches and encounters this hidden kingdom of barbarians. So I liked both those genres, the people getting shrunk and going on adventures, and then the stories of kind of tiny civilizations of tiny people, like the borrowers that sort of live right under our noses. So I liked doing the two of those together, again, in the backyard where I grew up, where I was falling in love with comics, falling in love with Robert E. Howard and Conan and fantasy stories, and where I kind of fell in love with storytelling, I think wanted to be a writer. And so it just seemed like the perfect setting for that kind of story, to go on this wondrous adventure that's literally in the grass and the weeds and the woods of your own backyard. And the average everyday creatures that you were encountered there become so much bigger and larger than life and mythic in that setting. Now, this is also a yard that it's a bit beyond what you would encounter in the normal backyard in Alabama, and like I said, it's filled with the world's weirdest and wildest insects. But it's still just that idea of like adventure, kind of waiting, right outside your doorstep, and even a big sprawling empty backyard could become this wondrous kingdom like your Middle Earth or your Hyborian world.
Yeah, totally. I wonder, you've done tons of work with existing properties and existing characters with backstories and things like that. I wonder if, approaching insects, if you feel any sort of narrative constraints or, dealing with pre-existing, non-fiction things. I wonder if that's different for you in writing a story.
In writing this one about insects,
with them as such a character.
No, I mean not really. I haven't felt intimidated in that sense. Some of it is just, it's intimidating to hear you say that you know so little about insects.
No,
that you're learning more every day.
Yeah, for sure.
And so for me coming in, like I said, we want this to be a book that is fantastic, and it is a dark, insane fantasy story, but it's also rooted in reality. So we want there to be real insects in here and interesting facts about insects. I want this to be a book for people who either love or hate insects. Either way, regardless of which way you go, I think we've got the book for you. So we do want there to be, a lot of the back matter we do in each issue will be kind of facts about a different sect of mites who are the tiny people, and then also facts about some of the insects that you'll meet in the yard, which are all real bugs. So some of it's just that, wanting to get as much cool real life bug knowledge as we can in the book.
Yeah, that's great. That's cool. Yeah.
So if there's one bug, there's one bug in existence that you think should be in here, that you think we should definitely include, what is it?
Oh, I've got a list. I've got a giant list.
Well, I'll take the list too, but if you give me a top three, maybe.
I've got my own list of extraordinary insects that I've read about, seen pictures of, that there's no footage of, that do incredible things. And one of the recent ones I checked off my list. So last year, let me give you a little bit of a backstory here. Last year, one of my secret goals as a scientist was to make a discovery or publish something from my own backyard. And last year I was able to do that with these arthropods. Used to be insects. Now they're outside of insects. Springtails, which have a spring-loaded jumping appendage they use to escape from predators.
Oh, I saw this. I saw this video.
Yeah. And so, but then on the flip side of that, there's predators that have specialized predatory things that capture springtails, right? And one of the ones that I've studied for a long time is trapjaw ants. But then there was another one called a Stennis robe beetle that lives around the edges of freshwater streams. And it's tiny because it hunts springtails, and springtails are only 1 or 2 millimeters in body length. And so what it does is it has giant eyes, and it runs around really fast. And then once it spots a springtail, it sort of sizes it up, walks up to it, and then it has a projectile mouth part that is about 3/4 of its body length. That it just it's walks up to the springtail and then projects it. And it's got a sticky sort of glob, those sticky hands you get at Chuck E. Cheese's or whatever. It's like that, and it just globs onto it, then retracts and pulls it into its jaws and just eats it alive. And so that was like on my list of like years, and was trying to find one of these and film it, because it happens so fast. It's like super fast too. But just like that stuff is like,
Adrian, I know you said we really shouldn't be scared of bugs, but that sounds terrible.
Yeah, I know it would be horrible to be at the life size of an insect, you know.
I mean, that sounds like that is some xenomorph sounding.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Do they have acid for blood too?
No, no, they don't have acid, but they can also skim on the surface of water, and they do that by dropping a droplet of oil out of their abdomen and alter the surface tension and then skate across it. That's their other like superhero. I know.
I've never heard of that before.
I mean, few people have, like, outside of entomology, and I hadn't until a couple of years ago. And I was like, oh, that's like on the to-do list for sure. Like, I got to see that thing. So,
can I ask, I guess, like, how often you guys are discovering new bugs? Because it sounds like that's a thing that I guess happens with more frequency than I may have suspected.
Oh yeah, tons of species are described every year, and it's discovery is like a tricky word with that because we know that they exist. Right? It's just like scientifically contextualizing them as a different species happens all the time. And it's actually it's a hard thing to do. I don't do it. I don't have that expertise, but people who usually work in museums as curators of collections have a specific knowledge. So in some cases, like there's groups of insects or arthropods where there's, we know that there's 40,000 species and there's one or two humans on the earth at any particular time that can distinguish, those species or declare that there's a new species. Like that knowledge is so specific and it's kind of a dying breed actually, that specific kind of taxonomy. But yeah, there's tons out there, new to describe, or even for me, it's visualizing stuff, like, grabbing stuff from the backyard and filming it, and then it turns out you can write a scientific study about it because no one's filmed it before, and it's like a new thing. So
that's incredible.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool, guys. Adrian, I know you've got to skedaddle in a little bit, but I got to thank both of you guys for popping on today. This is way more fun than
cool.
I had hoped. I knew it was going to be fun, and I knew it was going to be cool, but this was great.
Nice.
If you guys want, if you want to learn more about this stuff, Adrian has a YouTube channel, a phenomenal YouTube channel that you can check it out, and all that stuff will be in the show notes for this episode. His Instagram profile and where you can find him at some of the other places. So, Adrian, I won't have you list them all out. I'll put them all in there for you.
Cool.
100% check those out. And then, if Bug Wars was not already on your radar by the time you're listening to this, what are you doing? Go tell your retailer, I need my copy, and I need it now. Because I think as we're recording this, Jason, you have sold out of the first issue, so congratulations.
That is correct. Yeah, sold out at the distributor level.
That's right. So sold out at the distributor level. There'll be plenty of copies still left at your local comic book shop, but more is on the way. So we're definitely feeling good about that. And for more on any and all of that, you can you'll find this show at imagecomics.com, and where you can find the great back catalog, including Jason's episode of Let's Talk Comics. And yeah, guys, thank you again. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, It's fun.
All right, well, there we go. Something a little different for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you go pick up Bug Wars today. This was so much fun, so thank you, Dr. Adrian Smith, for joining us. Thank you, Jason, for spending even more time with me. I don't know how that man is not sick of me yet. We have spent so much time together over these last couple of weeks. And so that's really it. You got kind of the exit thing in just before this, and so this is just like a bonus exit, I guess. I want to do more of these. I'm going to figure out some opportunities to do that. I think that there are some fun opportunities with some books coming up that we can do that will just shed a different light on some of the real world influences, maybe on some of the books that are being done by the creators here at Image. It's just phenomenal stuff. week in and week out. So that's really going to be it for me today. You know the business. This is a bonus episode. I'm not going to bore you with it. Please leave a 5-star review on iTunes, on Spotify. It really helps the show out. If you really liked the episode, take a screenshot, share it on social. We'll share it. We'll do all of that. We'll give you guys the rub, using a wrestling term. We've got another episode, if you're listening to this real time, coming out real soon. This train keeps on rolling, folks. And so as long as you keep buying and reading comics, we're going to keep talking about them. We'll catch you next time.